I will call this meeting to order. And it is April 14th, 2020. And I will call our meeting to order. It is we are the School Board of Manatee County, and I would like to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Let's all have a seat. And for the record, I'd like to say that we have all our members present. We have Reverend Golden and Mr. Minor in the room. And we have Superintendent Saunders in the boardroom. We also have Vice Chair Kennedy and Dr. Hopes on via Teams. We're using Microsoft Teams today, so we're kind of having a virtual meeting. And with that, I'm going to start with the agenda amendments. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on the April 14th, 2020 agenda, updated April 9th, 2020, and posted to the district website, manateeschools.net.
This is Minor.
This
is Minor. I move to approve the amended agenda.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Minor to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second from Vice Chair Kennedy. Is there, I guess I'll go through. Mr. Minor, do you have any comments to add?
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
Mr. Kennedy?
No, ma'am.
Dr. Hopes? Dr. Hopes, are you with us?
I'm here.
Do you have any comments to add to the agenda?
No.
Okay. And Reverend Golden?
No.
Okay, and I do not as well. So we will vote. All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please, we'll do a roll call vote. We will start with Vice Chair Kennedy. How do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Reverend Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
The latest one.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. Dr. Hopes?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that passes unanimously. We're going to move on to reports. Board Member Minor asked to update us on the FSBA teleconferencing meetings he's been attending. Mr. Minor, would you like to share some information with us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. But the BA has been meeting by phone and otherwise up in Tallahassee, and I've tuned in through my telephone. And it's educational, for me. I have much to learn. The last meeting that we had last Friday at noon featured the Agricultural Commissioner, Nikki Freed. And it was a great experience for me because I don't know that much about the Department of Agriculture or how it affects our schools. I do know that to the credit of our school district that we are providing meals in connection with the Department of Agriculture for many in our community. In fact, I had some figures here that through the leadership of our superintendent and through our budget director, we have in our nutrition assistance program, we have been providing, let me get the figures, and Regina Thomas is a leader in this, but we've been providing something in the nature of 44 sites, over 15,000 are being served, something like 80,000 meals, and that's per week or per day. I guess the superintendent will correct me on this. And I think this is not really widely known, but I think that we have stepped up to serve all of the community, not just in education, but in survival. And I think that our superintendent and the leaders in that program and all the volunteers deserve an accolade for what they're doing to make it possible for families to survive and for our students to have bellies that don't ache for lack of nutrition. And I guess that's the sum of what I took out of that was pride and education, that the state is working with us and working with the federal government to provide food and nutrition, not just for the students, but also for the families. And we have a lot to be proud of in the staff. That's not to neglect mentioning that so many volunteers and so many of the people right at the forefront of dealing with the medical aspects and the food aspects, the people who are still working in our stores to provide essentials for our survival. And this is a battle for our survival, and I'm proud that this school district, through our superintendent, is doing a significant job to help make this not only survive but thrive, and this will come to an end. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to make this report.
I thank you, Mr. Minor. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being in on those teleconferencing meetings. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend the approval of the minutes from March 10, 2020 workshop, March 10, 2020 regular meeting, March 24th, 2020 special meeting.
So moved.
Second, this is Minor seconding the motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
I'm sorry, who made the original motion? Was that Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. So Mr. Kennedy made the motion and Mr. Minor made the second. Mr. Kennedy, do you have any comments you'd like to add to the minutes?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Mr. Minor?
No, I don't.
Reverend Golden?
No, Madam Chair.
Dr. Hopes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I do not either. So we will vote. Reverend Golden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kennedy? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Hopes?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes as well. So that was a unanimous vote, approval of the minutes. Let's move on to consent. Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend the approval of the consent agenda for April 14th, 2020.
So moved.
Seconded by Minor.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Mr. Kennedy and a second by Mr. Minor. Consent agenda does not have discussion, so we will move on to our vote. Mr. Minor, how do you vote?
Minor votes yes.
Reverend Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Dr. Hopes?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Let's move on to new business item number 1, approval of budget amendments for February 2020. Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
I do. I'm sitting here. Yes, I do. Sorry about that. I recommend the approval of the budget amendments for February 2020.
Is there
I
Okay,
move
there's-
to approve those amendments, or approve the superintendent's recommendation. This is Minor.
okay,
Second.
so I've got a motion from Mr. Minor and a second from Vice Chair Kennedy. Mr. Minor, do you have any comments to add?
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Kennedy?
No, ma'am.
Reverend Golden?
No, Madam Chair.
Dr. Hopes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I do not either. Let's vote. Dr. Hopes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kennedy?
Yes.
Reverend Golden?
Yes.
And Mr. Minor?
Yes.
All right, I vote aye as well, so that passes unanimously. Let's move on to item number 2, new business non-consent items. It is approval of the year-to-date financial statements through February 29th, 2020. Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend the approval of the year-to-date financial statements through February 29th, 2020.
Minor moves to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Vice Chair Kennedy. Mr. Minor, do you have any comments to add to this?
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Kennedy?
No, ma'am.
Reverend Golden?
No, Madam Chair.
Dr. Hopes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and I do not as well. So we will vote. Reverend Golden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Minor?
Minor votes yes.
Vice Chair Kennedy?
Yes.
Thank you. And Dr. Hopes?
Yes.
All right. I vote aye as well, and so that passes unanimously. Let's move on to item number 3, new business non-consent. Approval to apply, accept, and expend stand. For this item, because I belong to the CSAB board, I must recuse myself. So I believe, and I would like to ask the attorney, I believe I need to hand the gavel over to the vice chair for this item. Mr. Dye, can you help me through this?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, so Vice Chair Kennedy, if you don't mind just moving for or working on item number 3.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Superintendent Saunders, do you have a recommendation here?
Yes, I do. I recommend approval to apply, accept, and expend the Manatee County Government Children's Services Advisory Board, or STAND, Students Against Negative Decisions grant, effective October 1, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, not to exceed $221,000.
Minor moves to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
I'll second. Hopes.
Thank you, Dr. Hopes. All right, folks, we have a motion and a second. Board members, any comments? Or sorry, Dr. Hopes, any comment?
No, sir.
Reverend Golden, anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Minor?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, guys. I just have one. I just want to thank the team. I know this has been an ongoing annual process for our staff members who are working on this grant, so I appreciate their persistence. Okay, we'll do a roll call, just like our chair has led us through. Dr. Hopes, your vote?
Yes.
Reverend Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Vice Chair is a yes. Motion passes 4-0. Gina, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to hand it back to you because we're at public comment. And I'd really like our attorney to weigh in on the best way we should approach public comment. I know we've gotten a couple emailed to us. Mr. Dye?
I'm happy to speak to that. The procedure that we're under in the COVID conditions with regard to public comment is we've posted that persons can comment on agenda items by email, and that those emails will be distributed to the board before those items come up. We've not allowed general public comment, and the comments have only been by email, not through live participation. And that's the rationale is, as you know, but I'll remind everybody, was the Department of Education as well as the governor wanted the school districts to limit the duration of the board meetings as much as possible. And so it's to allow the public to participate. They can listen to the meetings, they can submit their comments. The comments get considered by the members before they make a vote, but it allows the meeting to progress as rapidly as possible.
Okay, so I'd like for everyone to acknowledge that we have received, to date, I have received, I think, 3 public comments via email. Is that how you think we should proceed? Mr. Dye just acknowledging have received these three. We have read them, although I don't think that any of those three pertain to anything specific on the agenda tonight. And we're more in a general sense. I still think they are valuable feedback.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Reverend Golden.
my sentiment is similar to yours, but in light of the fact that we have gotten or have received guidance from council, as opposed to us just generally saying that what we think about these three comments, I think that the conclusion of his report ought to be whether the three comments that we all have received are in fact matters that are not on the agenda. Their value other than that, that's something we could discuss. But in terms of whether or not we have been given, or whether we have given people a proper opportunity under the circumstances, I think he ought to weigh in on these three. First off, these are the only three we've got, and an opinion as to whether or not, in his opinion, these are within the parameters of the agenda or not, I think would be appropriate.
I'm happy to.
So you're asking Mr. Dye to say whether these three items are on any specific agenda item?
That's correct, because that is
Okay.
the guidance that he's giving us. That
I understand. Okay, Mr. Dye?
Yes, I'm happy to go on the record that I reviewed the three comments and agree that they are not aimed at a particular agenda item. They're general comments. I would add that all comments received will be made part of the official record of the meeting and be open to the public to also review.
Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no further comment about public comment, then I will move on to our legal department update. Okay, hearing none, I will move on.
Actually, I do have one thing. Was that for me, Madam Chair?
Yes, your legal department update, as I'm moving on to.
Okay. I'm not moving fast enough. Just an update on the construction contract review by an outside construction specialty law firm. I did, after the board instructed that, and the auditor, Byron Shin, recommended that as well. I did go through the process of interviewing and researching firms that I felt were qualified to assist in that regard. And I also got a recommendation from Erin Jackson, in her opinion. I culled it down to two firms. And I don't know if I've sent each of you the proposals, but I'm happy to do that. But the one is the Gunster firm. Both are statewide type law firms. You may have heard of them. And their construction department, unfortunately, is based in Jacksonville, so it would mainly be done remotely if it was them. And then Schutz and Bowen, which is also another statewide firm. They happen to have an office in Sarasota and in Tampa. Gunster, closest office is Tampa, I believe. My view on it, after reviewing it, discussing it personally with the attorneys, is I felt the Schutz firm had an advantage being a little closer, and their rates were slightly lower. So I'm happy to forward this information to the board. What I would like to get back from the board is agreement to allow the superintendent to enter into an engagement with one of these two firms, because I'd like to use sort of the downtime that we're in right now. Would be a great time for the attorney to be reviewing our contract. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, well,
I think that's a good approach. I think it's a good approach.
I guess I have actually some questions about the approach that's being suggested. My understanding was that we were going to allow the district to create their committee to work through this contract as it had been done in the past. And I think we can all say that in what was done in the past was successful. So I know that there were some concerns about now that committee being subject to sunshine. And because of that, that could create barriers with getting that expedited. And so I'm trying to understand, is the intention to forego the committee and just move straight to this attorney, or is our district personnel going to be part of this? How is this process now being envisioned? I'm trying to understand that, Mr. Dye. Can you help me with that?
Yes, and I've spoken to some of you individually about this. My recommendation is to go ahead and have your contract reviewed by the outside attorney who's got expertise in construction contracts, especially public construction contracts, and have that process go ahead and be initiated. The idea of a committee, I've not been able to endorse on at least the stage one of having your own separate attorney, make recommendations to you of what they think your contract should have in it. If the construction department, after these comments come back, if they want to do something where they get input from the general public, that's to me a second step of the process, but I've advised that I think that would fall under the Sunshine Law and that would be like a citizens advisory committee. And so you'd have to go through all the technical steps of running a citizen advisory committee. Alternative to that, I think it can be done without doing that, and the same thing accomplished by having your construction department can send copies of the draft contracts to various vendors that they use on a regular basis and just ask for comments that can be shared with our attorney, which is really more of the normal way a contract process happens, not in a formal committee setting. In fact, people all sitting in a committee in a room, my observation is they have difficult time really getting technical stuff accomplished. They can discuss things in general terms, but that decision can wait. I mean, I would like to see the review of the contract go ahead and be initiated, especially in the time that we're in, with things running kind of slow right now.
So to understand, your hope would be that we would receive some sort of work product that would take the contract that's currently in use and have revisions that would update it and include pieces of the American Institute of Architects, that those contracts, those pieces put in place or perhaps added to, and maybe also some of the recommendations from CRI. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
And I want to point out to the board that this is not what we had originally stated that we wanted to do. And I'm not saying I'm for or against this. I just want to point that out and make sure that the board is comfortable doing that. And I see a couple of hands flying up, but I can't see everybody's hand flying up. So I'm going to start with Mr. Kennedy. Do you have things that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Dye. I'm curious first, where is the sunshine violation? Because the board hasn't created a committee like the Financial Oversight Committee or the Audit Committee. We the last time the board got together, I think without a vote, we kind of came to a consensus that we would like to see a group of people come together to make the strongest and best contract we could. So that's my first question: is where is the sunshine violation? And I'll just listen for an answer.
Yeah, it's a good question. If I can jump right in, sorry.
Yes, please, Mr. Dye.
It's if you look at the statute, there's a section on citizen advisory committees, and that's what this would fall under. So though this isn't a formally established committee like the audit that's based on policy or procedure that's been in place, this committee is kind of being nonetheless made kind of on the fly, but still being made by the board. And what I saw had a bunch of citizens on it, and they would be advising the board on a contract. And that falls, to me, pretty squarely into the citizen advisory statute.
Gina, can I address that real quick?
Sure. Vice Chair Kennedy.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Mr. Dye, I look at it a little bit differently. I think this committee is actually advising the superintendent to bring the board a contract. So this to me is that committee, whether there's citizens on, whomever is on it, is actually advising the superintendent to produce a product that she will recommend to the board. The board is not going to hear directly from this committee like we do from the audit committee, like we do from the financial oversight, nor have we either by resolution or created a charter for this committee. So anyway, just wanted to throw it out there. I just looked at it a little.
Yeah, I'm very conservative on compliance with sunshine law, and I don't want to send us into a gray area. I could certainly see where the work product of this committee gets back to the board in a direct manner. So my conclusion was it would have to comply. And I don't think many people would disagree with that on the legal side.
Okay. Dr. Hopes?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, regardless of how the committee is formed, if it's a group of people that are coming together to end up with a product that advises the board, I do believe it falls under the quasi kind of board public committee. I think what's important here is that it's both the contractors that do business with us that were critical of the fact that we did not have a construction attorney or a construction litigation attorney, and CRI wasn't a construction litigation attorney. So in essence, it was the contractors themselves that basically said we need to have a lawyer who is experienced in construction litigation to advise us on a new contract. Regardless of whether or not the superintendent puts into place a committee of her employees, which would not fall under the Sunshine Act, or to take and solicit feedback, it's still prudent for this board to seek outside expert counsel to help us in crafting the next generation of construction contracts and agreements moving forward. The agreement we have has been around for 20 years. It has worked up to this point. We've had experts in construction auditing advise us that we should seek for changes in the agreement. We worked through those changes. The industry came back and said, we think you need to have a qualified construction litigation attorney to work on this. And now our general counsel has gone out, sought two firms that do this. I don't work with any of them, but I do know the firms from a statewide perspective. And I believe we need this expertise. I believe the superintendent needs this expertise. You know, we spend in excess of $150 million a year on construction projects, and we are still working with an agreement that experts have told us needs to be modified. And that's independent of whether or not the construction department comprises a committee of advisors. But I do agree with the general counsel. Once you start bringing in outside individuals in a forum to create a recommendation or advice to this board, I do believe that falls under the Sunshine Act. And I'm not against it. I mean, let them meet. But I do think we need expert legal counsel with regards to a contract template that we are going to use that is a binding agreement with regards to the use of hundreds of millions of dollars of public funds. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I can't see Mr. Minor or Reverend Golden. Mr. Minor, would you like to weigh in on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little bit lost here. We have a recommendation from Board Counsel that we should engage the Bowen firm to provide to us a proposed form contract for our engaging contractors in construction work. Now, I'm going to pause and ask our board counsel, do I understand that? Is that what we're doing here?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay, thank you. This would be without any kind of committee, and I'm not saying that's bad. In fact, I think it's good, and I go along with the arguments and discussion by our board counsel, and we're asking the Bowen firm to provide to us a form of a construction contract that's compliant with law, which covers, I guess, all foreseeable construction matters of this school district. And we're going outside our present legal counsel, because our present legal counsel is, not in humility, but in honesty, says that it is not a construction contract experienced expert. And so we're talking about hiring another law firm that is presented to us as being, or as possessing, that expertise. And that's a question. I'm not quite sure how the superintendent gets into this, because I think it comes down to not hiring staff. It's hiring someone to work for the board in putting together a proposal, for construction contracts in the future. I don't know why this, why does the superintendent get into this?
If you were comfortable with proceeding, then we could have this engagement entered into without going through another board meeting.
I don't follow that. I think that it is a matter that should be on an agenda of maybe the next board meeting, whether this board feels it is in the best interest of the district to engage the Bowen firm, which is recommended by you, and that would be considering a contract, a retainer contract,
Yes.
With an outside law firm, and they would be working for the board to come up with a proposed contract for construction, if I understand correctly. And that sounds like board business to me.
Yeah.
It should be noticed on an agenda for public examination and comment, and then discussed by a board at some future, maybe the next board meeting.
Yes.
Am I going down the right line here?
No, I think you can definitely proceed in that manner.
Okay. Madam Chair, my feeling is that it would be appropriate to go forward with having such a matter on an agenda for our next meeting to consider this. If our board counsel believes that a proposed retainer agreement for these services could be available for publication and review by the board and the public.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. That's the extent of my comments.
Thanks. Reverend Golden, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a question where our policy and the law intersect. The policy decision has already been made. We are going to change the contract that we offer to people who do business with us. That is the policy decision that was made for a lot of reasons, and we've had a whole lot of input as to why that is so necessary. What remains is what that agreement will look like going forward. The last one we had lasted 20 years. We don't know how long this one will last. But our general counsel has come to us and said that he has done his due diligence on behalf of this board to identify what emerged out of our policy discussions, that whatever contract we bring forward ought to be a contract that has been prepared and presented by a construction litigation specialist, someone who knows construction law and someone who can defend themselves or prosecute on our behalf in a construction law situation. So at this point, the question that I would like to ask counsel is, can you share with us what the agreed upon compensation would be by both firms? I know you said that one was closer and one was a little bit higher than the other. Can you give us those numbers? Because as has been pointed out, we do about $150 million a year in construction business. Who knows what that will be like going forward, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very critical that we be very clear in our language that we intend to bind vendors by. And I'm not so sure that I would want non-lawyers who probably will have an interest in the outcome of any particular contract making a decision as to what it ought to be like. I would really feel more comfortable relying on general counsel telling us this is the due diligence that I've done, and us deciding that we will either follow that counsel or direct him to seek other people. So can you share that with us, sir?
Yes, Reverend Golden. I've got already the proposed engagement agreements from both firms, and what I would propose is I send them to the board members to review before it comes back to the board at our next meeting. And you can also forward if you have any specific questions that we want answered before then. I will add, because these are 3-4 page agreements, and but they're pretty much boilerplate of how they get hired. But there is a slight difference in their rates. These attorneys don't come cheap, though, I'll tell you that. So I would like to try to limit their time as much as possible to in the office document review and preparation, and not have them have to do meetings and whatnot, just because they do have very, very high rates. Thank you.
The dollar amounts, how much is each firm charging us per hour to do the specific task of developing a contract that we may have to rely on for the next 20 years?
Well, and the different attorneys have different rates.
Just these two, the two that you have presented to us.
Yeah, but they have more than one attorney that might participate, but I can't answer that. I'm prepared to answer that.
Okay. It's all right if you can't answer it.
No, I can answer it.
And I would support the bifurcated process of allowing us to see what he is offering or what these two firms are offering, and that we come prepared at the next board meeting to select one of the two. I don't want us to keep going round and round trying to find the perfect lawyer.
Understood.
And so, And if we don't have a dollar amount that is presented to us tonight, we don't really even have a basis to make a choice
I can give you a dollar amount tonight.
for each of the law firms.
Yes.
Oh, okay, hold on just a minute. Okay,
So it's a range within each law firm.
all right.
The Gunster firm, the lower rate attorney is quoted $360 per hour, but would add a 15% discount on top of that, would reduce it. And the top attorney on that project bills at $595 an hour, but would give the same discount.
Okay.
The Schutz firm quoted with a range of the highest hourly attorney at $575 per hour, and the sort of the lower attorney at $375 per hour. So they even with the discount were slightly less, but they also had the firm in Sarasota, which I kind of liked.
Okay.
So
Quite honestly, the key issue when you retain an attorney is how much you got to pay him. And when we are talking, as Dr. Holtz pointed out earlier, $150 million a year on the line here, this is not a policy discussion. This is a legal opinion that we're going to have to live with as it relates to all of the vendors that we're going to be dealing with from now on. And so I don't want to second guess our general counsel. He's already done all of the due diligence, and I certainly don't want to find myself in the posture of not following his advice. That's what we pay him for. We pay him for his legal advice. He's brought it to us. Quite honestly, I don't know anybody personally in either one of those firms. It doesn't matter. But just from a dollars and cents standpoint, and the pragmatic issues that we're dealing with now with this coronavirus and the transportation and all of that, I'd much rather deal with someone who's down here in Sarasota, who knows us, who's familiar with us, who probably has had some dealings with us in the past, probably has some dealings with this law firm or the previous. So there are a lot of intangibles that go into trying to have somebody close by. And so I'm through with my comments, but quite honestly, I'm prepared to accept one of the lawyers that our general counsel is proposing that we accept, and that we authorize him to go forward with that engagement. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to come in.
I'll make
Okay.
that motion.
That I think we just in discuss. Well, I can make the motion if there's nobody else that wants to. I don't have a problem making the motion. I'll do that. But we were in discussion. So if Madam Chair says that we've all had our round, and if there's no further comments, I'll be happy to make the motion that we move forward.
Well, I think we all have had a round, and I was just trying to gain some sort of understanding of where all of us really were in this.
Yes, ma'am.
It sounded as if Mr. Minor believes that this should come back at the next meeting to approve an attorney. It sounds as if Mr. Golden, you believe we should direct our attorney to engage one of these current ones that he has already found. It sounds as if Dr. Hopes is in agreement with that. And Mr. Kennedy, I'm not sure I've gotten an understanding on where you feel on this issue. Can you elaborate how, would you rather see it at the next meeting so we can have more discussion? Or do you feel comfortable allowing Mr. Dye to move forward?
I am. Thanks for asking. I'm comfortable with Mr. Dye as where he started out at the beginning. I didn't realize this is the first update that I'm getting on the process. So I know Mr. Dye has talked to some of you, but I haven't spoken to him yet on it. So, you know, I would like to see this come back next time, but you know.
Okay, so what you would prefer that we have more discussion on it at the next meeting is what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Kennedy. Am I understanding you correctly?
Well, I was a little, are we at the next meeting in early May, are we going to have a finished construction contract to approve?
Mr. Dye, can you give us feedback on that?
No, the only thing you're being asked to decide is whether to engage this outside firm.
Okay.
Now, you're not going to have the construction contract. They've got to review it and make their comments and go through that process. So I was just thought sooner than later would be a better time to get that going because of the slowdown of the general world right now. It would be to me, an opportune time to get that work started.
And Gina, if I may, one more follow-up real quick.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So this is not we don't need to put an RFQ out for this. This is potentially going to be within the superintendent's threshold for spending?
Yes, I believe it will be.
Okay.
So it's really a question of, do you want to see more information on these firms, or are you comfortable going ahead and authorizing this engagement tonight?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Reverend Golden.
Yeah. We use words like engagement and all this kind of deal. You don't hire a lawyer till you hire a lawyer. And you don't get anything before you hire a lawyer. And the decision to hire a lawyer is just, I'm going to hire you or not. Waiting to hire the lawyer to do what we all have been trying to get done since, oh my goodness, when were those people in here? Was it before Christmas? All the contractors were, you know, we may wind up, you know, either we don't like these two, so he brings in two more. Or,
we still had people in the audience, is all I remember.
Yeah. And so all I'm saying is the decision to hire a lawyer is just as easily made as a decision as to fire a lawyer. If he takes too long, if it's, you know, if we keep dragging this out, if they keep milking the, what do you call it, milking the pump, or however you think, with the money, you know, then we fire them. But I don't think that our lawyer would let that happen to us. I think he's done his due diligence. I think he has done what we asked him to do the last time. Find a construction lawyer who is able to help us to fashion something that we may have to use for the next 20 years. He's done that. I know that he did not consult the contractors and all of those people who were here in that process, but some of those people are going to sue us about the same contract, and they'll point to what's in that contract. So it's best to start out right now with somebody that they can look at. I don't want to belabor the issue. Anybody can kill a gnat, kill a fly with a fly swatter. That's what fly swatters are for. But when you kill a fly with a sledgehammer, you get everybody's attention. And so I think this lawyer has brought us 2 sledgehammers. We can choose either one we want, but I think we'll be very happy with the outcome. That's the only thing I'm saying in terms of creating a contract.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Minor.
Ms. Minor. Okay. I think that the board having the opportunity and the public having the opportunity to review any, draft agreements that Mr. Dye has that have been provided to him is the first step. Whether, so that we can see really is this how we want to be doing business with this firm, or doing business with this firm with this change or that change, and we don't know. I haven't Mr. Dye hasn't spoken with me about retainer agreements. I have a little bit of experience of that on both retaining other attorneys and also being retained by other attorneys and the general public. Issues that I would be interested in is to what extent that a form contract that we may be used quite a bit, is that copyrighted, owned by the firm, the law firm that we're hiring, or us? To what extent, if it's not ours, how much do we have to pay to reuse it? I don't know if that's contained in any of the proposals that Mr. Dye has. We had kind of similar discussions about contracting, with construction companies with our schools. Is there different hourly rates for different kinds of contracts? I have no idea. The public doesn't either. But my prior discussion was, or my prior comments were that, well, let's lay them on the table. Let's look at them. Let the public look at them, get public comment. We'd have contacts, and then we could discuss about them at the next meeting. We don't necessarily have to approve any, but at least we get some idea about what we're looking for. The surprise to me would be if they have some contract that they're not already using, that they have found successful and has been good for their clients in the construction, the public school construction, that, gee whiz, if you want to, we can pretty much use that. And I'd like to see some of their work, maybe copy some of it, maybe if it's not copyrighted or something. But we don't, I am one board member who doesn't, I've heard of these firms, but I don't know what proposed deal is. And I think it's incumbent upon us, to find out before we do anything, and for the public to know. So that's it, Madam Chair. I think it needs further review, investigation, and discussion before we make any decision as to who we're going to hire for this important duty. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think I've heard from all of the board members. We've gone around, and I'm looking for a pathway forward. And I'm hearing that the majority of the board believes that hiring an attorney and moving forward this way is probably the best way to move forward. And what I'm hearing is that there's concerns regarding what these contracts state. So I believe the best way moving forward would be to ask Mr. Dye to send the board these contracts, and if there are any concerns, that those be addressed by speaking to Mr. Dye. If those concerns arise and are not quelled by Mr. Dye, then I ask that whomever has those concerns bring it to Mrs. Boyce and ask for it to be added as an agenda item at the next meeting. If those concerns are quelled, then I would like for the district to move forward so that we can have these contracts completed and in place. Is that a possible way forward for everybody?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Reverend Golden.
Yes, ma'am. Would it be possible for us to ask that one of the contracts be placed on the consent agenda for the next time? And if there are issues that are forthcoming, let those issues bring that off of the consent agenda, because we could go around and around like this forever. And to that end, the only choice that we would have to make at this point in time, including whether to accept either one of these, is which one to put on the consent agenda. And so I'll go forth and say that I think that as between the two, for all of the reasons that I've already addressed beforehand, that the Schutz Bowen contract be put on the consent agenda. And if someone has serious misgivings and concerns after receiving all of this information, then take it from the consent agenda. And at least that narrows where we are with what we're looking at going forward. That because this, you know, this mighty law firm that we've got up here, we're going to have all kind of differences of opinion. And our junior member sitting in the back of the room hadn't even nodded his head. He's just sitting back there in the back, taking it easy today. But in all seriousness, we cannot let the public just see us keep kicking the can down the road, particularly with how important this is. So if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion. It may die for the lack of a second, but I would simply move that the Schutz Bowen contract be put on the next agenda as a consent item.
Okay, Reverend Golden has made a motion to add the Schutz Bowen contract.
Yeah, B-O-W.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second that to allow for discussion.
Okay, there's been a motion by Reverend Golden and a second by Dr. Hopes to, on the next agenda, which would be May 12th, to add to the consent agenda an item that would, I believe, have the contract for the attorney Schutz Bowen.
Yes, both.
And Reverend Golden, you made the motion. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, ma'am. Just to try to get us off the tip of the balancing point. We need to make a decision. This attorney has done a whole lot of groundwork in it. We don't make these kinds of decisions lightly. And while we are a great law firm, I don't think any of us up here are one of the 500, I think that's what that guy told us that he was in here before, one of the 500 construction law, certified construction law litigators in the state of Florida. I don't want to get into trying to figure out whether I'm a better lawyer than they are and whether I've got a better opinion than they do and whether I'm better informed than they are about the construction needs of this district. I'm content with the guy that we pay the big bucks to be our general counsel, to trust that he has brought us his best and that at this point we either accept that or we ask him to go back and do better. We just can't leave him out there dangling with two contracts. That's all.
Okay, Dr. Hopes, you seconded. Is there something you would like to add to this motion?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I would like this to be done sooner, but if this is the will of the board, members, we're in a unique situation where we have students and in many cases faculty not in our school buildings. A number of our projects that are pretty much just kind of on hold because we need to address these contractual issues that have been identified. We've been going back and forth, and we do end up losing precious time when, as soon as the pre-construction work is done, we can be moving into construction. And we've got a general counsel who we have confidence in, who has gone out and followed direction that was based on feedback from the community, from our vendors, and from our discussion to bring in a firm that can help us work through a contract template that has the weight of an experienced construction litigation firm. And while I'm going to agree with this and to put it on the consent agenda at the next board meeting, whenever that board meeting may occur, but keep in mind, every time we delay getting a contract that addresses some of the problems that were identified by the auditors and others, we are delaying moving forward with some of these major construction projects. So I hope we can address this in due haste. We have a lot of work that needs to be done, work that can be done at a lower cost because we don't have people in buildings. And so, however long this lasts, we need to take advantage of the opportunity of an environment where we can have construction taking place, because it may be some time before these students come back. They may not come back this school year. And because we continue to delay bringing in the resources to arrive at a document that we can move forward with, we're just delaying, needed work. So I will support this, but I'm hopeful that if the general counsel can bring this together and have the conversation with each of the board members, that if we need to, we can have a special meeting and not wait till May. Once we're at a point where we've got an agreement with a law firm that can hit the ground running and get this work done while we're in this kind of weird state of isolation and what have you, that we get this expedited and we move forward with the much needed work in this district. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Minor, do you have anything to add to this, the motion that's on the table or on the floor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number one, the two contracts or proposed contracts that we're being asked to consider for this school district, for this board, are very important. I don't think anybody would deny that. I think it's important that the public see them, not just board members. I would value, I bring, the input of anyone out in the public, their pros and cons, or pointing out something that, this isn't good, or this, to me. I learned from that. And I think that it should be, the proposed contracts ought to be put on our website with the description that these are contracts that are going to be considered, by the school board, to be retained to assist the school board in construction contracts. And those who are interested in it would review it and get back to board members. That's number one. Number two, I think there's benefit at a meeting when we make a decision, for public input. I think a matter of this significance, this non-routine significance by itself, undercuts the idea of putting it on a consent agenda. I think that it by itself should be something that the public and board members should discuss. This is not the kind of thing that is a routine matter that one normally find, like we would normally find on a consent agenda. It's very important, and we need, and I believe, proper consideration by everyone, including the public. So I will oppose this motion.
Mr. Kennedy, do you have anything to add?
I do. First, I just want to remind everybody that even though it does feel like it was a long, long time ago, we had that workshop on March 10th, a month ago. So, and I think as of right now, and I realize what we're talking about is a contract to hire an attorney. We are not talking about the new construction template contract. So on one hand, I think I kind of support the motion. But on the other hand, I just got completely hit with this during the legal update, which I'm not super comfortable with. So I'm kind of weighing those two factors right now. I will have a decision when we vote. Thank you.
I think we were all hit with it just now. I was not aware of it either. So,
well, Mr. Dye, I will say, this was not news to me. Mr. Dye did email me. He didn't tell me they had picked people or had contracts in mind or whatever, but he did tell me that this was the way he wanted to go. And I suggested that the board be informed of that, purely because I didn't think that that was what the board had said that they wanted. And I wanted to make sure that the board was comfortable with this way of moving forward because it wasn't going to be by committee. And so he suggested that he would give an update, and I thought that that was a great suggestion. And if we need to come back and discuss it further, I'm completely fine with that. I think government sometimes gets a bad rap for the wheels turning so slowly. And if it's something that it sounds as if the board generally agrees with, that we need to move forward and that an attorney is the best way to move forward, which it sounds as if that's what I'm hearing, then I don't personally see the reason to add it to a consent agenda, which I agree with Mr. Mina. This is not typical business, which is what is supposed to be on a consent agenda. And this is something that would be under the district's discretion. If it's under $50,000, it would be something that wouldn't typically come before us anyways, which it sounds as if it would. This is something that the district is choosing to do and hire. And I think there are multiple times where the superintendent probably enters into a contract if it's less than $50,000, and we don't put all of those contracts before us because we trust that the superintendent under $50,000 is doing what is appropriate. And so I think as long as we're giving guidance that that is what we believe is the best way to move forward, then I still believe that it would be best to, instead of halting things once again, to allow it to move forward. And if there are questions, I am open to having this back at the next meeting. I'm perfectly fine with that if that needs to happen. If there's a lot of concerns that aren't being quelled, and it's overwhelming, then I think we should have it back. I support the board discussing it as much as possible, but I just felt as if we've already discussed this at length. I think we've all basically said we believe that we need to move forward with these contracts, having them updated. I don't think I've heard anyone disagree with that. And finding the best way to do that, especially in the times that we're dealing with now, where a sunshine required committee would probably be very difficult, especially in the setting that we have right now. All these members may not have the same technology, may not have the same systems. I think that would be a very difficult ask for a committee, as much as I really loved that idea. So to me, I don't see a different pathway forward other than to allow one of these attorneys to move forward. And I do trust our board attorney to look at those two contracts, it sounds as if, and determine which one is the best one, and work with the superintendent, because this is something that's really under the superintendent's guidelines, because it's her contract that she will be bringing to us. And I want to make sure that the district is involved in these updates. And I want to make sure that the community is involved in these updates. But I think there's plenty of time for that. This is only a question of, is this the pathway we want to go forward? Which it sounds as if it is. And if so, are we comfortable allowing the attorney to move forward? And with that, there is a motion on the table to add this to the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, I'd really like to call the vote on whether we will add this, the attorney's contract, on the consent agenda at the May 12th meeting. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Hopes.
Well, based on your comments, because I agree with your comments. So if we were to vote to put it on the consent agenda, would that inhibit the superintendent, once we're comfortable enough with the superintendent moving forward with this agreement and getting this work started?
I suppose we should ask this.
Yeah, I would not want to pass this motion if that created a fait accompli that nothing can happen until the board meets next, because I do agree with your comments. The superintendent needs to be able to do her job. This work is not going to exceed $50,000. That's her spending authority. To my knowledge, we don't micromanage every contract that she engages in within her spending authority. This work needs to be done. We've been working on this for months. While we did have a big meeting and discussion in March, this issue has been around for a while. And so I would not want to move this motion forward if it in any way inhibited the superintendent from moving forward with our general counsel and with her general counsel to engage expert legal advice to come forward with a contract. So in May, she can come back to us with recommended contracts to approve to move this construction work forward, as opposed to us starting in May to bring a law firm in to make the necessary changes to the contract. So maybe in June, July, or August, we can finally approve these construction projects.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so
may I?
it
This is
sounds as
Ryan.
if you're asking a question about whether this would hinder the district from moving forward. And I would like to ask, Madam Superintendent, can you answer that for us?
Thank you. I know it's a little hard when we can't see one another. I believe it was, my understanding, and I think Mr. Dye's understanding, based on some of the comments from that workshop, that we needed to have an expert attorney within the construction realm to be a part of coming up with our new contract. So that was our understanding. So Mr. Dye did his due diligence. He's been researching this forever, it seems like, and made sure he found, some that fit the bill that didn't have any, a bias or connection with anything that could really give us a different lens, an objective lens of having a current contract. It was also my understanding, he was bringing it to the board so that the board could either decide on it, or I can, because a lot of this conversation has happened with the board on wanting a new contract. But it was my understanding that we would be working with our construction department and so forth, and making sure that it was meeting all the guidelines and the expectation of work moving forward, and going back to what the requirements were that you had indicated prior. Even if you did have some other parties, some other committee members viewing it, vetting it, giving an opinion, we were still going to go through a process, but we really were going to have the expert kind of driving that, not Mr. Dye, not Mr. Teitelbaum, not myself, that person working with the parties to give a contract that we could move forward. Well, I'll do, whatever the board desires in terms of how you want to move forward. But that is why he was looking for an attorney, because I think a comment was made that was not necessarily Mr. Dye's background in terms of the construction. So he went out and found a construction litigator. So that's what happened. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew where we got to here and why Mr. Dye brought that up for an update today. And he did tell me today he was going to bring that up, and I thought he should, because the last conversation we had was, what are we going to do? We want these contracts updated soon, because we are going to be moving forward on some projects. And I believe it was the will of the board that we would be using the new contract when that happened. So I just want to give my summary of what I knew as to where we are today.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Hold on, Reverend Golden. Hold on, Mr. Minor. I don't know if I got an answer to the question.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Hopes asked, if we put this on the consent agenda on May 12th, would that hinder you moving forward now?
Well, until I have a contract with the said attorney, we cannot enter into any work. No work will begin with that person until I have a signed contract.
So you would wait until the meeting and the consent agenda approval
Yes, I would.
prior to moving forward?
Yes.
So that would in fact delay
Yes.
progress.
Madam
Okay,
Chair?
I heard that there were two other people that would like to speak. Reverend Golden and Mr. Minor, also a doctor. Mr. Minor, would you like to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The consent agenda is for items that the superintendent considers to be routine and are going to be approved altogether in one motion second and a majority vote of the board. These are items of the superintendent's business. That's a consent agenda. It's not something that the board says, you know, this is board business, we're going to put this on the agenda. I am all in favor of moving forward. But I think we need to do it right. And I think we need to have this as a separate item on the agenda, you know, for the next meeting. And that means this, you know, a particular item that the board is going to decide if it's going to go forward, you know, with that item or not. And that is something we can do. And I'm all for doing that. But consent agenda, no. I don't think it's proper, nor do I think that it's desirable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Reverend Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not so sure how we got into defining what goes on the consent agenda or not. I think that's purely within the realm of what goes into making up the agenda. You can't have it both ways. Now, either you're going to vote tonight to do something, or you're going to vote to delay doing something tonight until a time in the future. The choice that we have in terms of making it in the future is whether or not, as the chair pointed out earlier, whether or not we have such grave concerns about this contract that it should be discussed further. And that's exactly what the consent agenda does. We now have from now until May or whatever it is to raise whatever concerns that we are not going to talk out here tonight. I don't care how long we talk. I don't care how much we try to convince each other. The real issue here is whether we're going to do something tonight that allows the superintendent to act tomorrow, or whether we're going to do something tonight that requires the superintendent to wait until the next board meeting. That's all. And if she is saying that she's not going to do anything until she has a written agreement with an attorney, and we are saying, well, we don't feel comfortable giving you the authority to go ahead tomorrow, consent or otherwise, then the only other time we get to do business as a board will be at the next board meeting, which then allows each of us, for whatever reasons he or she may have for not wanting to do something tonight, to get in touch with whatever public people you want to get in touch with, to reach out to anybody that you want to reach out to, so that by the time we come to the next meeting, or by the time the next agenda is printed, you will already know whether you're going to ask for this item to be removed from the consent agenda. You'll already know that. And then you still have to convince a majority of us to do that. Now that's the nub and nutshell of what we're about here. This attorney can't do any more than he's already done. I mean, unless you're just going to tell him, we don't like the work you've done so far, so go back and start all over again, which then puts us in the position that Dr. Hopes talks about, delaying. And while we have this terrible pandemic that has given us the time that we can take a deep breath and that we can get somebody in here to do what we've said we've been wanting to do, I disagree that we started this in March. I remember us having discussions about the new contract back in January or something like that. So in any event, you know, you can't wait and not wait. You just got to do one or the other. You wait, put it on the agenda, and that's not going to stop this superintendent from moving forward, getting prepared. You can always prepare. You can't predict, but you can prepare. And if you're not going to be prepared tonight, if you're not going to be prepared a month from now, then what are we really doing? You know, and we're sitting here trying to convince each other whether or not this is going to be a 3-2 vote against or a 3-2 vote for. Or that's what this is about. And so, you know, we can keep talking and keep talking. We've already spent more time on this than we spent on the rest of the agenda. And that's just unfair. That's unfair to everybody. So I would ask that we just call the question, either vote the motion up or down, and put it on the consent agenda. And anybody that wants to take it off can make that motion then. And you got 2 weeks to convince the superintendent and the lawyer and everybody else. Otherwise, this is a piece of business that we will have behind us, and we can move on to the next important pieces of business that we got to deal with. I'm sorry if I sound impatient, but I lost a very dear friend of mine today to coronavirus. And I'm not in a particularly, I'm sorry, I apologize. So can I move to call the question, or do we go around another round? Call the question.
I hear a motion to call to question. Is there a second? Okay, that motion fails for lack of a second. And I believe, Mr. Kennedy, you were next. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks, Gina. And Reverend Gold, my condolences. I'll be very quick. I think I'm coming down on the side of a no vote, only because I don't like this process. Being hit with something at the meeting, like something of this weight at the meeting. However, I also recognize that tomorrow morning, if the superintendent wants to engage in a contract offer for any within her right to do that, and should do that if that's what she thinks is best. So I'm a no on this motion, and I support the superintendent moving ahead in whatever direction she pleases if it's under her spending authority, if it's within her spending. Thank you.
Oh, okay, we've gone around one more time. I actually liked Reverend Golden's call to question, but I can't second that. I will add, I agree with what Mr. Kennedy just said. He's right. Tomorrow she could engage in something, but the wonderful thing about our superintendent is that she really seeks the board's feedback. If anything I have seen from her, she really seeks the board's feedback. And I think the feedback I have heard, and I hope she has heard, is that the board would like to move forward with this. It is within her spending authority to do so. And we do not need to wait for the next board meeting. The board has already made it clear that we want this contract updated. If this is the best process and pathway forward to make that happen, we support that. I think that I've heard that from everybody. And so I would really love to get to a vote at this point with the motion on the table, if there's any further discussion.
Madam Chair.
Oh gosh, all my friends. Okay, Dr. Hopes, we'll start with you.
All I was going to say is I can support the motion if the superintendent finds that to move forward it exceeds her spending authority, then it would come to the board. But I fully support the superintendent moving forward with general counsel to get this work started. Should she need expending authority which exceeds her $50,000 limit, then bring it to the board at the next meeting. But she should go ahead and spend up to her spending authority to get this work moving. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Reverend Golden, I heard that you had another comment you'd like to add.
Yes. I withdraw the motion.
Okay, Dr. Hopes.
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay, so now there are no motions on the table, and Mr. Dye has given his update. And if there's no further discussion, I will move forward with instructional updates.
Are the other dates, the updates going to require this much debate and discussion?
I don't think we expected that one too, so there's no promises ever. Miss Yost, do you have an instructional update?
Yes, ma'am, I do. And thank you so much for calling upon me this evening. I'd like to begin with our e-learning by indicating that our teachers are doing a fine job working in pre-kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Our teachers are putting out information for updates for learning each and every day. This has been a mammoth task, very rapid turnover with training and execution. We are certainly surveying via our principals, regularly trying to gain a pulse on how this is working, and we're addressing concerns on a regular basis. So it's a learning process for all, and we believe that we're moving forward in a positive fashion. Additionally, we're including in that instruction our DOE mandates with content and substance abuse, mental health, human trafficking, and Holocaust. So we're doing all of that. Additionally, I'd like to share that this evening, as you approve the consent agenda, we are appointing several principals to various positions throughout the district, beginning with Ginger Collins, who has been named the new principal at Lee Middle School. Ms. Collins has served as an assistant principal at Southeast High School since 2018, and we're looking forward to her leadership in the role of principal at Lee Middle School. Additionally, we have Deborah Riley, and Deborah was named as principal of Miller Elementary School. And Billy Joe Tynan Fintel has been named as the principal at Palmetto Elementary. Samantha Webb at Able Elementary School as principal, and Nicole Williams will serve as principal at Onico Elementary School. So we congratulate each and every one of those appointees. Additionally, in the area of instructional services, we have appointed a director of assessment, accountability, and research. And serving in that position is Evan McCarthy, who has been promoted from the senior statistical data analyst to serve as our director in that position. So we're extremely excited by these appointments and the approval of the board under the consent agenda. So thank you so much. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Is there going to be a lengthy discussion about it? Hearing none. We'll move on.
Could we get
Operations update.
Could we get a
Mr.
background?
Wagner?
Could we get background information on each of the new principals, starting with their high school education, please?
You got it.
There it is. There it is.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Wagner.
Very good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, very good. I just want to piggyback on what Ms. Yost has said and recognize then two of our directors. Vince Hoagland will become the district's director of infrastructure service. He's been with our district for 29 years and is the district supervisor of network services now. And Steve Wright is moving over. He's a current director. He's going to be the district's director of site support services. He's been with us 33 years himself and is currently the director of infrastructure services. I do want to just highlight a few of the things that some of our departments are doing since they're pitching in now with the coronavirus. First of all, we spoke about it before at one of the other board meetings about purchasing and finance, where we were really one of the first districts to have adequate hand sanitizer and gloves deployed to all the sites. They've been working hard, and now we have disposable masks for all employees that are working in our schools and sites. It should last us till the end of the school year. IT, they've deployed over 9,000 Chromebooks and devices. The internet buses, we have 25 that are rolling at any one time or available. Those were all retrofitted after spring break. Today we had 259 unique clients who have accessed the mobile Wi-Fi sites. We even had 20 people at Faulkner Farms just today log in onto our mobile sites. We have 33 schools that have outdoor Wi-Fi access, and a note on that is 28 of them have been installed in the last 14 days. The numbers are building every single day for that as well. In food service, Mr. Miner had noted that we had 89,000 meals given out just last Friday, which included the weekend. Thank you for noting that, sir. The total for the week is an impressive 102,000 meals, which included the weekend. And to date, if you can imagine, the school district of Manatee County has prepared 249,000 meals since this started. Almost 250,000 meals have been served since we've been under this coronavirus, and that's at 33 sites that are open now. HR, payroll, and benefits. They're working hard with the new emergency coronavirus programs. They're getting people enrolled, making sure they're getting paid, that they're qualified, that they're documented. There's a lot of questions and answers that those teams are doing to support our current employees. The custodial's been working hard. We have 270 employees today working out of about 323. So they've been working hard to keep our schools clean and make sure that they're as clean as possible. Transportation, transportation's jumping in and helping everywhere they can. Besides driving, obviously, the internet buses and supporting that, they're actually working at the schools as well and helping wherever they can around the district. Safety and security, they're tracking the coronaviruses. They're working with government, working with local health care. There's a lot of questions. There's quarantine. There's a lot of information that has to be out there, and they're taking the lead on that. So we just wanted to highlight a few areas in the operations department and thank everybody. There's plenty more that we could have spoke about tonight, and just want to thank everybody for working so hard.
Okay, I actually do have one question, Mr. Wagner. Hopefully it won't become a debate. On Fridays, I know that this past Thursday, the meals included the weekend. Is that being done every Friday?
That's correct. Yeah, so every Friday. Okay. The Thursday was extra because we didn't serve meals on the Friday for the Good Friday. So that's what jumped the number up so high. But yes, every Friday now, since we are serving meals on Friday, they do include the weekend meals as well. So students take with them a package that includes breakfast, lunch, and then also for breakfast, lunch for Friday. So it does bring those numbers up high.
Wow. Okay. I think that's great. I just didn't know that we were also doing weekends every week. I think that's wonderful. So, is there any further questions? Okay. Madam Superintendent, would you like to give an update?
Sure, and many of the things have been touted by the two deputies. A lot of good news occurring this week, and even though we're kind of in a quasi-remote e-learning stage, learning is going on, and a lot of hardworking folks are behind the scenes, and we have to commend not only the teachers but the parents and the students for adapting so quickly and transitioning within 2 weeks to a whole different platform of learning. What I'm gathering is I think mom and dad have gotten a really great appreciation of what the teachers are doing each and every day. And I think some have decided it's pretty hard. So there's some positives that will definitely come out of this situation. But I think all in all, it's been very successful. We, have to learn how to adjust, I think, from our traditional style of grading and giving assignments to adjusting in a week span of time with other considerations being made. And we're working through those. We're adapting and helping the parents, but we're also helping the schools to be mindful of that, because it's hard to change when you've been doing assignments and grading and things in a way, and then now all of a sudden that's no longer the way that you're going to be conveying education. So I know they're working through those difficulties, and I appreciate the patience. And if any parent has concerns, reaching out to their teacher or their schools, everybody wants to ensure that our students are successful. We do have, as of last week, 96% of all of our students on the online platform. And Mr. Schreier and team are working on figuring out what the barrier is for the 4% that have not logged on. So we want to make sure no child falls through the cracks, and we do not leave any child behind due to this one quarter. And we have a commitment with our schools and our teachers that is not going to happen. In addition, because we're part of such a generous community, I'm not sure if the board is aware that we did have a donor for part of our bus Wi-Fi program, and Bruce Langston was one of the donors that made this a possibility for us right out of the gate. And he generously donated to make sure that none of our students, especially the most needy, would go without internet, so they could make sure that they had the Wi-Fi to do their work, and we really do appreciate that support. And like I said, we have so many giving community members. Mary Glass reached out to us today, and many others are still looking to see how they can support the district and our students and our teachers in this time of need. And so the Education Foundation has set up a COVID fund so that if anyone wants to donate or give for the cause, that is what the purpose it will be. And it will be ran through the foundation. And the email address or phone number, let me give that to you. It's mefinfo.org, or the number is 941-251-4937. And we really do not know how long this is going to last. We know that we could be delivering summer school in this format as well. We know that some of the Wi-Fi provided to our families in the interim was the Spectrum 2 months free, which will get us through the end of our school year, but it will not provide free Wi-Fi into the summertime. So we still may need to expand our bus Wi-Fi and other things when we get to that situation if we're not back in brick and mortar. I would also like any of the community members to look on our district website. I know has been a lot of conversation about, will we close continued for the year? Are we going to open up the first part of May? And I did put, the information provided to the Tampa Times on our website so that any community member can see where we are to date. And it's a fluid situation. And when the situation changes, we will change with the situation and keep everybody abreast. But I want to thank everyone for the hard work and dedication. And we're going to get through this year definitely stronger than we were before.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. We're on to board comments. Mr. Minor, would you like to start us off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's something that we have with this pandemic that I think has drastically affected all of us. I think in our lives where we find comfort in the routine, that's our refuge, and nothing's routine now. And I personally feel off balance with having to deal with life in a totally scary situation, life where we lose friends. And my condolences go to the Reverend Golden and loss of his friends. And I think all of us have known people who have been lost. Those of us who believe in faith, we find refuge in our faith. But it doesn't cover up the grief that we feel inside. I'm very proud of what this school district has done for our community. Bring back memories of what we've done in the hurricanes. We've been a leading force reaching out to provide comfort to the community, and we're doing it again. And this is much more than what we did in our hurricanes. I'm very proud that the board has selected a superintendent who's done an amazing job. Thank you. It's very complex. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, and it's not perfect in the results, but it's pretty darn good, folks. And we ought to be grateful for that. It's one day at a time, and hopefully we'll soon have a return to normalcy. But until then, Godspeed with everyone. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minor. Dr. Hopes?
Yes, Madam Chair. I really want to commend our superintendent, her staff, really, and board members. We have all been thoroughly engaged in this. We have stepped up to the plate and done an incredible job in ensuring that our students continue to learn. and we have platforms for our educators to continue to educate. This, having experience in this field, I thought it was going to be bad, but it's worse than I thought it was going to be. And what's amazing is that the school district has been able to rise to the occasion. If you look at the number of children that we're feeding every day and into the weekends, the delivery of content, the capacity that our IT department under Scott Hansen's leadership has created an environment where we can all be connected. It's important to continue to focus on our core, and that is education, as hard as that is, and to understand the challenges that many of our families have. This is a pretty wicked bug, and regardless of what's in the press, I will tell you that the virus has mutated into 5 separate strains now. That means, in reality, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So this is kind of like our new normal for at least a few weeks to come. But we need to focus on the children, focus on what's important, and to any of the general public that are out there, there's a very clear and simple way to help mitigate the spread of this disease. And that is, you should not have contact with anyone that you don't live with. And to go to the grocery store, I think you're going to find that, like in Asia, even before this pandemic occurred, if you went to Taiwan, Taipei, or other cities in Asia, they were still wearing masks because they remember 2003 and the SARS epidemic. And so I think we're going to find that there are going to be new restrictions. If you're 65 years and over, don't leave your home. Go out, get fresh air, walk your dog or whatever, but don't engage with other people, because the healthcare system will have a difficult time in addressing the needs should you become infected. I think that we are doing a spectacular job in the school district in setting an example. But what I ask the general public, communicate with us, bear with us, and please do not expose yourself or your family to anyone outside of the home that you live in, both for your own safety, but more importantly, for the safety of others. This is a very, very serious virus. I have a professor from nearly 40 years ago who has been in this field for 50 years. And he told a colleague and I the other day, he has never seen a bug that is as bad as this one. So this is real. When the government says, do not leave your home if you're in a particular cohort, when health experts tell you to avoid contact with other people that you don't live with, take and heed that warning. To all of our employees that put themselves at risk to ensure that we meet our mission, I thank you. And we appreciate everything that you're doing. Everything from our bus drivers, our workers in the schools, our educators, our administrators, the administration under the leadership of Superintendent Saunders. We all appreciate what we're doing, and we're going to get through this together. But we're in a new normal. And with that, we're all engaging in this technology. We're here. We appreciate the messages, and we appreciate knowing what the challenges are as parents. And I know our chairwoman messenger has got 2 little ones at home, and she's learning all about homeschooling. And there were things that were brought up to me by a couple of parents today I had not thought of, is when you have 3 or 4 students, even 2 students, and you have a limited number of computers in your home, how do all of those students engage? So please let us know your challenges for every parent out there and every student as you address challenges, barriers that inhibit you from doing the best that you can do, let us know. Because if the superintendent's not aware of those challenges, we as a board and the superintendent as administration cannot address them. So we're going to get through this as a community. We are one of the leaders in the state in how we've approached this. And to all of you, may your health continue to be, may you continue to be well. May your family be safe and healthy. But please, the only way to prevent this from spreading and becoming more of a catastrophe than it is for us to engage in what humans do, and that is we engage with other people. And now we have to enjoy the technology that our children are so fixated on, whether they're on the school bus or otherwise, and connect with a device, because that's the healthiest way to approach it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Reverend Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me begin by saying to the members of the school board, to the staff, to the superintendent, to those of you who may be watching, I do want to sincerely apologize for the intemperate and emotional aspect that I brought into this public business meeting of the school board. It was inappropriate, and I ask for your forgiveness and consideration of that. And I can assure you, with all of my power, I will not lightly let that happen again. Usually, I have better control of my emotions, and I apologize for not exercising that. I would like to thank the superintendent for embracing the faith community in helping to deal with the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic. And I do want to thank those members of the faith community who are listening, who have responded to be so helpful in trying to make sure that not only did our children participate in uninterrupted meals by opening their locations to children in their neighborhoods, in their communities, around their churches, not necessarily around the schools that they attend, but just around the churches that are near them. And that is from Myakka all the way to the beaches. Every part of the county has responded. I also want to thank them for the support that they have given to the information technology part of our delivery by allowing these school buses to come to their locations and to be a part of the solution of delivering curriculum to the students. That has just been so very helpful and so very meaningful. I want to thank our employees who, at great sacrifice to themselves and to their own families, have continued to stay on the wall and stay on the watch to make sure that the quality of education that we maybe sometimes take for granted is still delivered here in Manatee County. I want to thank the parents who are now, in many cases, doing triple and quadruple duty because the burden of continuing the process of educating their children is no longer a luxury to be enjoyed in school buildings and with teachers, but they have to have a much more hands-on participation in this process. And so I want to thank them. But most of all, I do want to thank the health services community, from the from the aides, the nurses that we teach at our schools, to the doctors that attend, in some cases here, their schooling here in Manatee County. This is a vicious, deadly time in which we live. And I am absolutely convinced that it's going to take the best in all of us to make it through this. Words will not do it. Bombast will not do it. It's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of shedding of a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of blood. But we are a resilient people, in spite of all of the flaws that we may have. We have overcome much adversity to arrive where we are in our status in the world. We are not only leaders, but we're also servants. And so I'm pleased to just be a part of the service that we continue to render in this county, and the example that we set in this state for how to comport yourself in times of adversity. I thank you so very much, and again, I do sincerely apologize for my emotional outburst. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. Sorry about that. Reverend
Okay.
Golden, no need to apologize. I don't want to repeat anything that's already been said, and you all have covered a lot already. Thanks everybody who's been involved. I just want to bring a couple things from public comment. I know they will be recorded in the minutes. I just wanted to acknowledge them. We had an email from Bridget Mendel and Superintendent Saunders. I am curious about this myself. Heard about it from a few parents. So if Superintendent Saunders, could you address this? And it's about seniors' last day. I know that everything is fluid, but we are essentially 3 weeks away, or almost 3 weeks away from what would have been the seniors' final day of school. And so, Gene, I have a couple other comments, but Superintendent Saunders, could you address that, at least where we are today? I know.
Absolutely. Excuse me. I also did respond to Ms. Mendel's comments about that topic as well. As you know, if you're a high school student, you have to attend school based on a statutory requirement of 135 hours to be issued a credit. Our seniors traditionally get out before the rest of our students, and we, with the extended spring break, those 5 days do hinder our requirement to meet the statutory 135 hours. So with that being stated, we have communicated with the state. We are awaiting to see how we will proceed. Many things are, still up in the air. We have not officially canceled graduation of May 13th. However, it does not appear that we will have that date issued. We do have a secondary date the last week of July if need be. But without a waiver from the state, the seniors would have to do those additional days to receive credit. So we have communicated with the state, and we are awaiting. Hopefully we'll have a response this week. They're not over yet anyway, but I know all parents do want to know the outcome of seniors' last day. We do have the required minutes for all other students because they do not end as early as our seniors did. So it was no barrier for anyone except for our seniors.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up one other comment we got earlier today, and the superintendent actually already addressed it in her comments earlier in the meeting, but it was from a parent whose name is Chi Kulig. Board members, you all received this, and she was questioning about possible online summer school, which the superintendent already addressed. And then finally, as Dr. Hopes has alluded to, or not alluded to, but mentioned, requesting feedback from families about the challenges that they're encountering. We got an email from Jessica Patterson about some the workload, and not just from Ms. Patterson, but from other parents. I have heard that there is a little bit of inconsistency. I know the superintendent part, but I just did want to kind of concur with Dr. Hopes that if families and parents are encountering difficulties, please let the board, let the superintendent know so that we can address them, and so we know what's going on out there, how this massive experiment in statewide online learning is going. And then, Gina, last thing I had, and this is for the board members, our governor is beginning to make rumblings of reopening schools. And I just want everybody to have this on your radar. I personally am strongly opposed to reopening schools. Honestly, before the school year, I think we should just finish this school year online. And there is, I think, going to be a bit of a power struggle, or there's going to be, as Brene Brown would put it, there's going to be a rumble over who gets to make that call. And so, board members, we don't have a meeting until May 12th. But what are we going to do, board members, if 2 weeks from now the governor says, okay, everybody back to school? And I think we, as board members, have to be prepared for that moment to come, because right now, personally, I'd put it about 50-50 that could happen. So I think we need to have that in the back of our mind, because to me, that is an incredibly dangerous situation and a public safety disaster. So, but to end on a positive note, I want to, Reverend Golden's already said it, but again, to the superintendent and her team, for all the work that's being done, and to our parents and families and kids who are really persevering through a nearly, for some families, impossible situation. But I hear from parents, but I hear a lot of good stuff from parents. Hear problems from people, but I hear a lot of positive things too from within the district and from families. So, given the situation that we find ourselves in, I'm really proud to be a part of this school district. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you. And it is up to me. If the governor were to make a ruling or an order, or however it would come down, then we could call a special meeting to discuss it and discuss our steps forward and our options. I agree with you. And I am a parent that is going through the Schoology and everything else that we're doing. And I have the benefit of being an educator, but I also have the benefit, or that could also be a downside, because it's radically different teaching your own child versus teaching other people's children that go home at the end of the day. That being said, Skittles and gummy bears still work either way. So any concerns that any board member has about that, if it were to be decided that we should reopen, and that is something that came from the governor or the commissioner of education or whomever, we could have a special meeting and discuss it and discuss our steps forward, what we'd like to do, our options and all of that. And I would be in favor of doing that. And I think that's appropriate. Anytime that we can have that conversation about any of that, I think we benefit from that, because of Sunshine, this is our only opportunity. And I enjoy talking to all of you and getting different feedback and different perspectives. And speaking of feedback and perspectives, I agree. I appreciate when I hear from teachers and parents, because everybody's experience is different. And the system is certainly not perfect, and it will never be perfect in everybody's eyes. That would be an impossible feat. To quote Dr. Green always said, on her best day, you get 50% of the people, happy. And I think that's, tough, to be in the position that we're in a leadership position, and to know that it's not a perfect system, But man, are our teachers and employees amazing to be able to turn on their head and change the way they were doing everything. And so I'm so proud of the employees and our teachers and our staff, our bus drivers, our food service people, all of those people. What they did radically changed, and they have taken it all in stride. I have been so impressed with just the amount of grit that all of our employees have had through this. And granted, it's like I said, it's not perfect, but they're amazing. And I say that about our superintendent as well. You know, she took what was handed to her, and I think has done the very best possible. Luckily, she had the foresight to already have Schoology. You know, I have friends that are teachers in lots of other school districts that have dealt with a lot more and had to overcome a lot more than Manatee County has had to overcome. And part of that is because we had that Schoology in place, and that was our superintendent's forethought to have that. That's not everywhere. And so, you know, we really we're very fortunate in a lot of ways. And we're even more fortunate that we have such dedicated employees that understand, you know, we need to make sure that our students continue to learn, albeit it'll be radically different. And, you know, my daughter misses her friends. She misses her teacher. She's making her teacher cards and, you know, saving her snacks at our house so she can take them to her teacher. You know, she misses them, you know, and that's, I think, normal for any kid. So, and as a parent, I'd love to make sure she sees them again. But if it is a health hazard, we can't do that. So it's a very difficult situation for everybody involved, for parents, for teachers, for the kids, everybody. But truly, I appreciate everyone's feedback. And I really would like to thank the MEF board. I'd like to thank Mary Glass because, you know, she is already reaching out and trying to make sure that if there's additional things that we need, she's there. She's trying to help us. She's trying to support us because certainly none of this were things that we could have budgeted for. And yes, the state said, okay, we can release some of the money and spend it in different ways. But this is unprecedented. So I really appreciate her support, and that's the community's support by way of her. And so I really appreciate all of that. And I just would like to end with, you know, we will get through this. We will get through this together, and we will get through this with patience and understanding. And the more patience and understanding that we have through this, the better we'll get through this together as a team. And I mean, as a team, I mean the parents and the teachers and everyone. We are all on the same team working together to get through this. And that comes through communicating with each other in an effective way. So I really appreciate all of the positives. I appreciate even the concerns and the questions. All of those things help us get through this together. And I really appreciate everybody. We made it through this meeting virtually, and you know, we I think we're getting better at this. So that's great. And if I don't hear anything else, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Is there any other objections to that? Okay, it is 7:49, and I will adjourn the meeting. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good
Nice job.
Thank you.